Hello and happy Tuesday, diary listeners. We have the second half of our diary entry with Scott, aka Noshoes. That's all one word, no shoes, but all one word. We're calling the second piece, since we introduced the first one as his name, we're calling the second half Take My Baby. And you'll see why. It's pretty awesome. Enjoy, listeners. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Yeah, what are some of the classes? Because you were talking about them a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So today I had Audio 3, which is the 400 level audio production class there. It's like the last one you can do as an undergraduate, at least in that like specific part of audio, because what that focuses on is mixing in depth. So what that comes down to is like, you can do like a rough mix fairly easily. It might not be the prettiest thing, but
I know I do them on.
yeah, exactly. It's not that hard. A little EQ, a little compression, everything sounds better. But so now we're going through it and we're like taking time to like put on an effect, turn one knob of it, turn it on and off, and train our ears to actually hear what that sounds like.
Oh, how cool.
And just different things like that. So like truly understanding what each piece of the EQ does, what each piece of the compressor, so on and so forth. I mean, there's as many effects as I'm sure there's probably years the earth has been around. But
oh yeah.
Then another class is a radio station operation. So I'll
Very
actually be
cool.
doing a radio show that
Nice.
I'll have to send you a link to.
Yeah.
But we're learning all of that. How do you produce a radio show? How do you, I mean, all the way down to like literally shoving the wires through a hole in a wall so that way the producer can be on one side and the talent's on the other, and all that stuff. I'm taking a couple like core classes. One of them is like core specific for my major, and one of them is just like core for the school. And so for the major specific one, it's history of electronic media, which is always intriguing because I find the translation from digital or from analog to digital just really fascinating, especially like sound is so weird because it's invisible. And it's stored as like electrical information, as in like differences in voltages and all these weird things. And
yes,
so it's cool to see that. And then the last class is main themes in African and African American studies, which you got to do your like world awareness credit or whatever it is. And I went for that class because I took a African-American history class at community college, and like immediately all the rap I was listening to just gained a deeper meaning.
Oh yeah.
And now what I'm really finding valuable in this class is that was all asynchronous remote. Now I'm actually in the room with people, able to like hear people's real life experiences and everything. And like I said earlier, I'm all about the conversation. I think, it's great to be talking to you, but we all spend our way too much time staring at these screens.
Yes.
And with our faces and our phones, and
yes,
nobody talks anymore. And then they're like, why are we all pissed off? And I'm like, because we don't talk to each other. Nobody understands each other. Just say something, dog. And
agreed.
It's been a great experience at school to say
that's
the
awesome.
least.
I think that's a benefit of school in a lot of ways. It puts you in front of things you would never otherwise think was relevant to what you were trying to do or, exposed to. I ran into a group of, I don't know, it was intriguing to me. They are trying to translate the Bible in languages that are not written. Nobody else knows but the people who know them. And it's pretty impassable. And so they're, they just have to spend all this time with people and like really learn and take, it's a labor of love, but like also there's just nuance to the Bible that like, they're like, how do you talk about this? Like, how do you break down that word? And we were trying to, I offered, I said, I don't know how valuable a visual artist would be to your mission, but I would love to help you. And they had already explored that, obviously, but they got an artist, and they said, we had this artist do this art piece, and they kind of rolled their eyes. They said, the thing of it is that culturally, these people have different associations with things than what the artist was actually putting out that they thought meant all these things. And I said, oh no, I totally get that. I was like, I wouldn't make art to then show them as a representational kind of thing. I don't think I could be that kind of remote. I would want to come and be there and interact with them, and we mutually draw together to get to it. But I said, I've worked as a tattoo artist, so I'm trying to translate people's individual emotionality all the time. And it's been cross-cultural. Right. It's been all those things. I said, I think I'm a little different than your average, just artist who does art for themselves or who is stuck in one kind of paradigm of thinking. But no, it's very, very true. I mean, your experience heavily influences your perception. And
absolutely.
And like you said, we can all have opinions and ideas, but if it doesn't come down to moving the needle or actually collaborating and doing something together, then I don't know what we're doing all this talking for. It's
exactly
just cut your losses and move to some, huge property where you don't have to interact with anybody. If that's the case, like, cool, I champion you if that's what you want to do. But I don't understand why you'd spend your time arguing if we're not going to try and see each other. And, how much could you actually call each other friends or any of those things if you're not going to do that? So,
exactly.
You know what I mean? But yeah, it was an interesting thing. I haven't heard back for them. I gave them my contact and I said, if I'm helpful, they're in, I want to say Pittsburgh. So not far.
Oh, okay.
I was like, you're not that far. I could go. I just love their interactions with these people. It sounded really funny. It sounded like they run up on some really interesting, debacles that they have to tackle together. And it just seems so human and so beautiful. And I was like, it's a really interesting, thing. And it's of course, with the mission of a faith that you're trying to, give to a people. But the hurdle of it is so cool. I really thought that was interesting. But yeah, like it's the same thing with college. You take a lot of courses. You're just like, how is this going to be applicable? But there's a lot of things that I took classes with. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to relate. And it's like in the annals that I didn't completely dump all the cookies in my brain and cache them. It comes out in some kind of way that I'm like, oh, well, that's how it's relevant. Okay, cool. That's
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, it's interesting thinking about that with writing and art and everything, because I was struck by it actually during the writing of the third song on Dabbed and Nick McTarman, where it's just very straightforward storytelling. I don't really rhyme on purpose at all in it, aside from a couple times. And I was just trying to figure it out. I started, because I don't know if it's odd, and I guess you wouldn't be the best one to tell me since you don't rap, but like I tend to write without playing the instrumental, especially when I've made the instrumental myself. And then I'll turn on the instrumental afterwards and say, all right, well, how can I fit these words into this?
Oh.
And so I wrote the song. I'm trying it out. It's like, it's too fat. I thought it was too slow, but then I had one of my buddies listen to it and he was like, why don't you slow down more? I can't understand anything you're saying. And I was like, fair enough. This one is actually one where I want like you to just be able to listen and hear what I'm saying and follow along. So at one point during this exchange, I pass him the journal to read it. And when I'm writing music on paper, there might as well be no structure. It's all up here. But I didn't think about that. I was like, oh, I know what this is when I look at it. I handed it to him. He was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, no, you're not getting it. This is how I'm going to say it. And finally, after like I demonstrated for him, he was like, oh, I get it now. But I did the context in my mind of knowing what my plan was and knowing how I wrote it and knowing how each line interacted with the next one. It's easy to forget that power that's just right up here.
Yeah. Well, and there's a few things I'm hearing, like, so there's a difference between, trying to teach yourself something and trying to hack something for yourself. And then, giving a process to someone else, like they're very, to teach is its whole other thing. Yeah. And then bring somebody else in. So, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about the time that I had a sketchbook like that, and I gave it to some kids that were in elementary school, and they completely got what I was saying. And if I had shown it to anyone else that I guess had more of and they were blown away. They were like, this is so cool. And this is this and this, and they were getting it. And I was like, whoa, man, like they're like the most horrible little sketches. And I don't even know if they were even making any sense. But for these kids, they were. It might be interesting too for you to like, I once sat through a seminar with a guy. His name was Wing Claybaugh. And he said, mentors are all around you. And some of the best are children, because, they're just optimism, knows no bounds. And everybody's an artist in their eyes. Everybody, everything's amazing. And they're quick to things that you wouldn't necessarily think they're quick to.
Yeah.
So, he said, it's always good to kind of pay attention to them, because they're kind of unstoppable in their faith and their passion and their belief and all of that. So I really liked that. But yeah, like I've definitely, I have a journal that I write down with every Bible study, and it's just like a free flow of thought. My husband picked it up once. I was like, no. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
I can't look at it. I was like, no, there's absolutely no context for that. I am not letting you. I'm like, it's for me only. I'm like, because I know where I was dating it. You have no idea where we were at. I mean, I don't even write it like that. It's just these weird things that come up. I'm like, no.
Exactly.
That's the one
thing.
So yeah, it's and with teaching too, when I was a mentor for an apprentice, what I found out is I'm a very tactical, like I have to get dirty to hack it and like dissect it and everything. And for me, a lot of things are instinctual, intuitive. Like I go after things like, unlike music, which I sucked at right away. Art was something that if I can get my hands on it, I can figure it out. Like it's just one of those things. And if I can apply my visual acuities to it, and especially if I can watch somebody do it and then try it myself, it's in. So like trying to break down something to someone who has no idea what you're talking about, and that's how you learn. It's like your professor. I know why she was so frustrated with me too when I was trying to teach her, because she's like, this bitch just told me she doesn't see what she's doing. She feels it. What am I supposed to do with that? And
that's
it's like
funny.
It's like the drills that you're doing with like, the different sound effects and stuff, like being able to train your ear and knowing. And the only thing I could give my apprentice was, dude, it's time under the needle. There's just certain things I cannot give you. I had to learn it the hard way. I'll give you whatever tips I can articulate. we're all here. You have like a whole studio full of people, but like, and it's the same with like, if you have a college environment, it's so much nicer when you can kind of bounce off the different student bodies and hear their perception of things and what they're kind of gathering. So that's what's also cool about, not just staying on your own, space.
100%.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it's kinder too, because unlike the internet, where you never know what opinion you're going to get, everybody's there to equally do the same thing. So it's uplifting and hopeful for the most part. I mean, there's definitely been some like tension in certain classrooms I've had between artists, but like
Sure.
For the most part, people are there to like mutually uplift each other and share and just embrace the same things. So that's
great.
really cool. Yeah. No, I love that you have a journal. I love that you like try to plot things out. I wouldn't know if it was odd or not. Not necessarily because I don't do what you do. It's just because I don't really have a barometer for odd.
Me either. I can't tell.
Pretty fucking odd. So, like the weirder the better. Like, come on, let's do it. Like, sure, man. Like, how involved do I have to be? That I do have to know. But if I get to just watch you do something, or like, I'm for it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool that you're, that's sometimes the best way that you learn too, is to do things the hardest way imaginable.
That's the only way.
Yeah.
That's the only way I learn, at least.
Yeah. What was like the biggest struggle? Or a few. Yeah, it didn't have to be the biggest.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's it's one of those things where like it's hard for me to say if there's been like a biggest struggle or like to really like I don't know, like that's almost my favorite part, is the part where it gets hard, because like to me the part where it's easy is boring, right?
Yeah.
Like that's regular daily stuff, but then once you encounter a challenge, that's where you really get to have fun. And obviously some of those challenges are more frustrating than others. So like one of the hardest parts for me with working with stuff, and something I still encounter regularly, especially with working in the, being the equipment manager for the cage at the school, is digital works great. Analog works great. Combine them, they are the messiest thing you will ever use. And so, I mean, whether it's getting a MIDI controller to actually input and then getting the digital instrument to actually work with it, or getting a board to hook up and control just like a couple sliders inside of the program.
Dude, I know.
Like that.
The only thing I can relate it to, like that just came to my mind, was the integration of like Droid meets Apple, like when you're trying to run certain systems or, programs, or, startups are usually, based in more of a Droid, and like those kind of technologies. It's not the same. You're talking analog, which means like the way that the actual sound interacts with it differently. It's a whole other thing that you're trying to, but it's so fun.
Exactly. And so I mean, I've used like hardware synthesizers where you got all the switches and everything. In ARP Odyssey, I used that on that first beat I made where I wanted to do pure tuning. And like just different things along those lines. I mean, like I really do seek out the struggle, like in the freestyling relevancy. Like someday, sometimes you get stuck on a couple, like a chain of words, maybe like, what have I been on lately? I think I've really been on like a mission, glisten, listen, like that type of sound lately. Or, I've really been liking like chapter after master, like captor, like I've been on those sounds lately. And a lot of the times, like early on in it, like it was easier to be harder on myself. But as I've gotten deeper into it, one of the things I've realized to tell myself when I do feel like I'm struggling is, first of all, you can't have your best day every day of the week. because then you'd never have a best day.
No.
And
Yeah.
but then, in more relating back to like looking for the struggle, like I've done games with my friends where we'll pull up a random word generator and you got to wrap your way through 20 random words, and some of them you never read before. You didn't even know they were English. Or, we'll do other stuff like we give each other a word and you got to rhyme like 3 times and then use that word as the last bar. Well,
That's
one of my
awesome.
one of my favorites is something I thought of because so when I like was still early, like maybe the summer before I started the YouTube channel. I started the YouTube channel in August, just over 4 years ago. And I think the summer before that, there's a YouTube channel called How to Rap. And they had like online courses, and one of them was like a 2-week freestyle course. And it wasn't all that much. So I was like, let me give it a try.
Right.
And they gave some valuable drills. It was cool stuff. They took away my like lifetime access to being just like a member on the page, but I'm not here to hate. But regardless, one of the drills was just count like 1, 2, 3 car, 1, 2, 3 far. And it's like, look, if you can just string the
Oh.
rhymes together, you can fill in the rest eventually. So then more recently, I heard somebody talking about if all your flows sound the same, it's probably because you're rhyming in the same place every time. So then it turns into 1, 2, car 4, and so even to
Yes.
the point where it's like bar 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
and we're like counting along to the beat, going back 4 bars each with that, and like that again, that's one of those parts that like I just find so exhilarating. But
That's
definitely
cool.
technology is the biggest of all the challenges. You say time under the needle, we say build the callus. And
Oh.
because it's probably similar with a person as a canvas in front of you. I mean, the options are endless.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, you open up Ableton and it's like overwhelming how powerful that software is. And sometimes you just got to tell yourself, don't look at all the buttons. These are the 3 buttons that matter to me today. I'm going to
Yeah.
use these. As long as these work, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, if it isn't good simple, it's probably not going to be good complex.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the best foundation. Yeah, that's it's very true. Very, very true. I had my mentor once asked me, pretty much like I asked you, like I kind of messed him up. I think he was like, "Do you ever like just hate art so much that like you just want to put it down? Like you don't ever want to do it again?" And I'm like, "No, no, what?
Oh,
No, I've never." And I
he
could,
was having a bad day that
you could
day, and
just
you
look
just
in his face. I'm standing above him, and he's like just like going to town. And what looks like a really great design, from what I can tell. I know he was struggling with it, but he almost cried. Like I could just see it.
oh.
His eyes, and I was like, "Bro, I think you need to walk away."
Right, right.
Do you ever get like? I mean, you sound like. I mean, even just this whole time, you've been a perpetual smile. So it doesn't really. I don't. It would be hard for me to envision you like upset, honestly.
Sure. Yeah, you're not the first person to come to such a conclusion. And I'd say like 90% of the time that's a good assumption. For one, it's a compulsion. I cannot speak without smiling. I
That's
don't know what
good.
it is, but
It can be heard, so it's a good it's a good thing that you smile because you can hear it
hey,
in the sound of a voice.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you got to have some bad days, and
You strike me as
for
like a random outburst kind of
it
person.
it does happen like that a lot of the times, like unless like something like horrific has happened recently, and like loss of a loved one or whatever, like it might be like the TV show reminds me of something,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it hits or whatever it is. But something that I really try to work on, and and something again, a lot of this made it into Dabda, where, you know, on the last track of that, after writing it and recording to it and listening to it, I realized I wasn't talking to the audience. I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I mentioned in there is, what is it? Spending all my time trying to stay at baseline. And, you know, I'm here for the deviations, the highs and the lows of life. You got to have it. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of power in being able to like acknowledge and feel an emotion, and then to be able to come back to a level place and address it from that standpoint. So, you know, I have my moments as anybody, but yeah, I really try my best to remain level and breathe it through. Yeah, absolutely.
Pardon this interruption, listeners, but I haven't done a shout out for Black Dagger Books in a while, so I wanted to. If you want some really, really cool books that focus on an artist per month, go to blackdaggerbooks.com. Black Dagger Books is an ongoing collection of artists defining modern tattooing. Each month is a new release. Each release is a different tattooer and the artwork they create. Sign up today and stay inspired. It's not that expensive, folks. It's only $25 a month, and you get these wonderful little keepsakes. And if you're an art fan, it's a collectible that you really, really, it's worthwhile to invest in. So go check out blackdaggerbooks.com. You won't regret it. Now, back to our podcast. Well, like you said, you're very well trained in that. I mean, a smile is something in sales that's very necessary. But you know, and that's, I actually did Toastmasters at one point because I wanted to conquer the fear of public speaking.
Okay.
And and so what you learn, especially when you're walking into a fear like that, is that the people who are natural at it either A, have a chip missing, you know, like they're just borderline crazy, or they're well practiced.
Yeah.
You know, and it is one of those things, because there's nothing can happen if there's just too much emotionality. It is wonderful to feel it, because I think if you don't, you're gonna grow a tumor somewhere.
For sure.
But it doesn't do anything. It doesn't. It just, you know, it can inform what's next, and I do think that's valuable. But yeah, I'm the same way. I get accused of having a lack of emotional intelligence. I'm like, well, you know, like I have emotion. I just what is that going to do for us right now? Nothing.
And it's funny how different people will respond, because I've gotten some really great reactions over the years. Like, first of all, and I'm sure you know this, you wouldn't believe the things people will let you say to them if you smile and look them in the eyes.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like I go to the gym and I say horrible things to people that I love. They're awesome people, and I just love to roast them. It's the most fun thing. I love seeing them itch. Sometimes they get back at me pretty good, and like, but that's just a fantastic thing. But then also, there was one instance when I was working at this gym, Fitness 19, over in Elkridge, and I was like 19 or 20, and I ended up being the general manager of this gym by the end of my like 3 years there.
Nice.
And that was an interesting experience, to say the least. But there was this one woman, I can't remember her name. She was normally very nice. She would come bring her daughter into the child care, and this day was a Saturday and childcare was closed.
Oh.
And she was like, just so upset. And she was like, come on, can't I like leave the kid here with you? And I'm just, I'm having a conversation with her where I can't see myself right now. Just my face is what my face is. And I was like, ma'am, I'm sorry. Like, we don't have the insurance for it. Like, I
No.
can't watch, or I'm doing other stuff. Like
You're
I'm
really
really
gonna leave
sorry.
your kid with a random dude?
Right, right. Like, I know I'm nice, but like, that's way too much trust.
You
But
have
yeah,
no idea
so
who I am.
so she like gets upset. It's nothing crazy, and then she like wanders off. And I guess she thought I couldn't be in charge because of how young I was. So then she goes over to one of my best friends, Rich, who was, I don't know, probably 50 at the time. And he's one of our trainers there, still my employee, and at the time. And she's like, what's, and she's all mad. She's like, he's smiling while he's giving me bad news and da 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 da. And Rich actually said to her, he was like, lady, that's just his face. He was like, he doesn't mean it. He's not laughing at you. He doesn't think it's funny. Like, that's just what he looks like.
Yep. That's just how this he's gonna smile. And well, and that makes it matter though. Like I know my husband does that. Like his he's very strong, so he finds a lot of things humorous because many people can't out strong him. So he's just like, look at you. It's like a puppy yelling at me. It's like it is borderline humorous to him.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, like yeah, to kind of touch on this in terms of we were talking about racial lines. One of my favorite authors is C.S. Lewis, and I was rereading the Narnia series, and as a kid, you're caught up in the fantasy. He wrote it for his I believe his niece, and it's really well written. But when you're listening to it now with like the kind of perception that we have about a lot of these things, I'm just sitting there going, this is some really privileged white people shit right here. First of all, like there's 4 children that are sent away to this like old dude's house because their parents, are, I forget what the actual thing, but they can't, their parents are away or they're, caught up or something like that. So it's some real daddy warbucks kind of like thing here. I mean, you have the preamble, which is like the whole examination of the scientists that they go to live with. But it's like, dude, you're shipping 4 children to be staying with an old man.
Right.
That's a paradigm that doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody likes the sound of that anymore.
Right. And he's got all these rooms and he's got all this like space beyond what he needs that he can just take in 4 random kids just cause,
Right. Isn't
like,
that crazy?
Like, this is a really, really, and I never thought about it that way. You're just, you only really get that part of it at certain points of the book. And then it's all Narnia and it's whatever. It's this whole other thing. But yeah, like, I'm like, wow, this is definitely, this is maybe part of my problem. But to your point of like, I'm thinking about it. Back in my mom's day, Giant Food had a drop-off place for your child.
Oh,
I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, that was a thing. Like people just did. They just like left their kids with random people that Giant Food hired.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the gym was a little less weird when like the girls were there to watch the kids because like
one, they're
people
female.
come back. Yeah, that too.
Not that women can't be insane. Surely we can. But as it stands, most people are pretty like, if I'm gonna have anybody watch my kid, I trust a young lady than a guy.
Exactly.
A guy that smiles a little too much. Just like, please take my children.
Right. And I weighed like 205 at this point. Like I was yoked. I was massive. But
it's a testament to your, I guess, like a lot. I don't know. I don't know. She just really had to work out.
It's fine.
That's awesome. I love it. Um, what is the like your so you're still in school. I know all
Yep.
this, but like you are gonna have a radio show. I would love to shout that out and all of that. What's next on the horizon? Like you said, ultimately you do want to make beats that other people might react to and all that stuff. But like immediately, like what are your next challenges that you're getting into?
Yeah, so right now there's a lot of things up in the air. Obviously, getting to the end of the semester is the most important thing right now because I've already done my time messing around in college and not going to class and doing work and not doing work.
Yeah.
Um, but outside of that, right now I have a No Shoes Gang Cipher Volume 4 is in progress. Volume 3 is actually about to release on the 1st of March again as
Nice.
a re-release because I had to switch up distribution and all that stuff. And instead of leaving it on and trying to transfer it, I just said screw it. But volume 4 is coming up. I'm super excited for that. This is the second time I've made the beat, and we have 14 people on it this year that are all, 14 including myself. So 13 of those people
Nice.
are different rappers I've met through the channel,
Wow.
through that I've met, just in my real life walking around. And one day somebody's like, I'm a rapper. You're a rapper? And like, it just happens like that weirdly enough sometimes. But yeah, so that's the next big thing. And then right now, what's like kind of taking form is this idea of the next album I want to produce where I'm going to put together hopefully a lot of features once it comes time. I'm thinking like 12 songs, maybe 8 with features, and I'm doing a lot with sampling animals. So I think I might have told you at the art day about my squirrel song.
Yes.
And then a cicada song
Ooh.
I think I actually started on that like the night before the art meetup, but that's progressed a little bit. I got like a song that I use this like chicken sound that I found in the
cool.
works. And yeah, it's really interesting what you can do with sound since the thing that really boggles my mind is they're invisible, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of make whatever you want out of them as if you can contextualize it correctly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so a lot of like weird animal sampling that is layered into like more traditional instrumentals with structures and whatnot.
Yeah.
And beyond that, just the channel itself, I put out 5 videos a week with reactions. I do a stream once a week on Mondays, and it's just it all wraps up together somehow.
That's very cool. I love the shift that your life made from sales and women forcing their children on you to probably having your own car now and not in a minivan anymore.
Look, I might have taken the daughter. I might have watched the daughter if she would have just asked me out, like if your daughter needs a new dad, just say that.
Just let me know, man, if that's your problem. I don't know how much this commitment is going. No, I love it. I was just thinking about like, you had said that in the beginning, it was applying a lot of sounds to things like the woman climbing the wall and footsteps. It's really fun when you're playing with sounds like that are of different animals, because then that leads into like the Jurassic Park series, for example, where they, before they unearth the vocal cords, which I don't know sometimes about science, about certain things. And I'm just like, are you guys just fucking with us?
Right.
But
the whole T-Rex is made like a little squawk type of thing or whatever they say.
But like in the beginning, did you ever watch like the creation of Jurassic Park, the first one, and how they blended all the different sounds, including like an elephant and different things just to make that projection and the different things. Yeah.
That was our first assignment in sound design, actually.
Oh, nice.
I took like a bear and a cat and a dog, and you layer them and pitch them up and down, and
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, that stuff is really cool.
That's really fun. Yeah, I like that you're playing with animal sounds and all of that. Like it's really cool. And um it would be neat. I always have ideas because when I'm around other creatives, I'm gonna park that. Uh I wanted to know because you get tattooed by Dan at Black Lotus,
I
right?
do indeed.
Okay. Because that's how we met. I wanted to kind of mention that. How did you like did you think about like what did you expect going to the art day? I don't know. Like I was just curious because we had such an eclectic smattering of people.
Right. So the art day was the lead up to it was hilarious for me because the first time they posted about it, I thought it was the next day, which would have been a month early. So I emailed them immediately and I'm like, I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow. And then I think it was Missy emails me back and she's like, no, 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 no. It's in a month from now. Do you still want to come? And I was like, yes, I'll still be there. So that's like a week out. And I was under the impression that like they were setting up a space for like artists like ourselves to like set up. And then they were going to like have people that, just enjoyers of art come in and
Oh,
like maybe like an expo or
yeah.
whatever you would call it. So I emailed them once again and I was like, hey, like, since I make audio, I'm planning to bring music. Like, is it cool if I bring a speaker with me? Like, I don't want to be intrusive. Like, just kind of
Right.
trying to figure out the vibe. And then she's like, also, no, we're just going to be making stuff. But
I don't think you were the only one that felt that way. Because we had a glass artist there, and
yeah,
clearly it's not set up to blow glass, but
no,
like
certainly not.
I figured it probably. I mean, love all that stuff. Obviously, I bought a piece from him. He's amazing, but like I don't think that was you know what I was going to suggest for your music because you were putting on stuff and sharing things and it
Yeah.
was neat and I loved the eclectic vibe of all the different things we listened to but I always like the idea of what different combinations of disciplines will do when they
Yeah.
interface. And I once went to an art retreat. It's called the Paradise Artist Gathering. They're bringing them back. They used to
Okay.
do both art and tattooing. Now that I think they're just
Wow.
going to do art because the tattooing is just never really took off and it's not, I don't know. We want to do art. We don't want to tattoo more. Like that's not a vacation for us. It's like work.
That's fair.
You know what I
That's
mean?
fair.
It's a
Yeah.
lot to collaborate and get together. That's not fun for anybody, including the coordinators. So, but they had Alex Gray there, who,
Oh, okay.
yeah, designs the tool uh, logo of the eye and all of that stuff. He does. He owns the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors in New York, and they have like a whole non-denominational. Oh my god, like facility where it's just like an artist commune, like off the
Wow.
Hudson. And him and his wife Allison were there. I don't know why I'm getting tripped up. And then my earring just falls out. All right.
I've been kind of impressed that you had the headphones and those earrings on this whole time.
They're the only ones that can actually be seen. And like, because all the rest are kind of dainty. It was bound to happen. There was something telling me, slow down, kid. So we were doing this. Of course, he loves psychedelics too. Very metaphysical kind of guy. He did a whole talk on how you cannot be addicted to mushrooms. They literally will stop you before you get there. Like it's not going to work. And that's what's awesome about them. And then he led us through this nude modeling session where we weren't nude. We had nude models that were yogis. and we were exploring the different chakras. So he would have us like meditate on each chakra as we went. And he had devised a playlist that as we moved through it and as we examined different poses, and he talked about the chakra. So it was like a moving, meditative, artistic, don't even know. It was like multidisciplinary. Awesome. It was really, really cool. And I like the fun things that you give yourself to kind of practice, your beats and playing with words and trying to figure out how to, mess with them and deconstruct and everything. It was very much so like that. I think it would be fun if you could collaborate with the people at Black Lotus and host a day where you're like, hey, could I just like play this collection of songs and kind of, have everybody gather and, maybe we were all painting the same thing, but we're all listening to, the music and just seeing what all the different artists kind of come up with.
Okay.
And how they translate what they're doing. And then you can kind of like maybe even have a live feature to it where you can add certain things as you're going, they're doing things to kind of influence different stuff. I think it'd be really neat.
That would be a lot of fun. That'd be really cool. I like
either that or they all have their own headset like they do in the rave parties. And you only give them one song and they're responding to something and everybody else has their own song.
Interesting. That would be a cool idea. I like that. Yeah.
It'd be fun. And they're so fun there. Like, I think that they would probably really enjoy that. And it's, it's audio, so it's easy. It's not like glass blowing where you like need a whole facility to do that. I think it would be really fun. I know Halo would probably be down. He's involved right now with Oath to Embers. So that's a big project. But I don't see why they wouldn't, find that interesting to host.
Well, I might have to run it by Dan because I'm actually, I got in touch with them today because his books just opened up recently. Nice. And I'm finally going to fill out my, the rest of my left arm. So I'm going in for the consult in like a little less than a month from now. And I'm stoked. I've been waiting like months. I've been just like once a week. I check Dan's Instagram to see when the books are opening.
Aww.
It's also good to wait though, because it forces me to save money.
True. But True. Yeah. Prioritize, not blow it all at once. So totally. But no, that would be cool to bounce off. And I don't know. I always love things like you could probably count on me to, I don't say probably, like if I have enough forethought, like I did this time, it was like a month ahead of time. I'm like, I'm there.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I've been wanting to hang out with all of you guys and just, I have a little private studio because I don't get out much. So for me, those kind of things, they're really fun. You get to meet people like you, interdisciplinary kind of collaborations and just great conversation. So I knew this would be amazing. Yeah, dude. Well, okay. So where are all the places that people can find you and follow you?
Before I get to that, just something I'll spit out real quick is right now, I actually do have access to like a communal artist space that it's actually a little bit more than that. We've got like a golf driving setup in there. And then, like my buddy teaches jujitsu. I don't know how much longer we'll have it because it's in the upstairs of a gym that has some vacant space that we're friends with the owners of. And so we'll see. They're moving, but if they have it long enough, I'll definitely be out with something about that. But
nice.
As far as where everybody can find me, Therealnoshoes, no spaces, that's where to go. Instagram, Twitter. On YouTube, my name will show up as just Noshoes because they allow you to like change that now separate from your channel name, but I'll come up under Therealnoshoes. And then, my links are all there. Linktree is a great invention. So if you can find one of the socials, you can find everything else I do.
Sounds good. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. Is there anything that we didn't really, I mean, you're lovely. I'm really excited that, I met somebody that is just like another type of creative. And it just makes life more fun. And you know, for me, when it comes down to trying to communicate to people that they need to just do things, what I loved about your story was that, you had a friend that just was like, hey, let's play. Yeah. He kind of goaded you into it. And then you're like, screw it. I'm in my parents' minivan. And it's pre-COVID, but then it became almost COVID. Yeah. And then this whole thing like evolved in this steady dedication and resubmittance of just time and attention and all of those things. Like that's really what I want people to realize, because you hear your reactions are people who have made it to certain things, and whether it's good or bad, you have an opinion because they're at that level. But, sometimes when you're listening to these people, it's like there's so much that you have to do to get there that you just feel like you get stymied. You don't even start. Yeah. So yeah, what I really want to illustrate over and over and over to people is just like, dude, just do it. Just do it. Just have fun. Play. I love the fact that there's different things that you gave the audience that they can practice, or that if they have the similar kind of like passion as you, they can kind of play with themselves, these little tricks. It's really, really cool. Thank you. Yeah. And what is the system that you use? The audio editing system? Ableton. Yeah, Go ahead.
So I'm familiar with Pro Tools and Logic, but Ableton's like my home DAW, digital audio workstation.
Gotcha.
And yeah, if I would say that probably to reiterate everything you just said would be that's a place I'd love to leave it, because I think that's the most important thing that I believe in is, just do it. To anybody who watches this, hopefully somebody will listen to us talk for this long to get here, but just do it. I've posted almost 1,700 videos to YouTube at this point. And, and I think, like you said, a lot of people get stymied, and, I think even sometimes people interacting with me forget it. I have like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's my biggest platform.
Awesome.
But, it's a great thing. I'm grateful for it. But at the end of the day, I'm still the dude who sits down in front of a camera and says whatever he wants. And I just happen to know a little bit more at this point. Yeah. And I'm a little bit more confident, and you can't get that way if you don't start. I uploaded 3 videos a day, 7 days a week for 6 months when I started, because it was COVID. Where was I going?
Yeah, and you could have done a lot of things, and that's what you did.
Yeah. Well, this is true.
That's very prolific. Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Like, because this show, I'm like, I can't even imagine doing more than one show a week. And sometimes that's hard pressed, like to do it every day and then to do it 3 times a day. My God. Yeah. That's awesome.
And
that's
I was posting really cool. all 3 every day like an idiot. I should have built up a backlog, but I'd record them and shoot them out. I was all just running on E.
No, there's something to that heat, though. It's kind of like the walk-in shop, and then you become a private, you have a private studio where you have clients that like book with you, like it's there's a heat to it that you learn so much within that, and you kind of figure out your own rhythm, your own, way, I love that. I just think that's really cool. Cause like, it's like when I get parents, they're like, oh, my kid's really into tattooing. They want to be a tattooist. What should I do? What should they do? I'm like, draw.
Yeah. That's it. Right.
Draw, give them art supplies, man. Like that's it. Cause they're going to have to draw. Like they're going to have to draw and draw and draw and draw and draw. Like, so, that's it. It's just reps, constant reps. I love that. Wow. you're I feel confident that whatever you want, you're gonna get, Scott.
Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Including
Thanks for
random
having me.
children. They were gonna just be handing their babies to you. Really, please.
Look, just if anybody wants me to raise their child, just ask. You don't have to be embarrassed about it. That's all I'll say. But no, this has been great. It was great to meet you the other day. I'm glad we were able to hop back on, and it's an honor to have somebody want to hear my story. So,
oh yeah, man.
So thank you.
It's going to keep going, God willing. And so we can always touch back. This, I actually touch back with people and we kind of reconnect if you still want to talk to me.
Well, now that the first time is over, I can't come. No, I'm playing. We'll do this again in 5 years, get some nice symmetry.
Yeah.
And we'll see what's happened.
I like it. But
we'll stay in touch in the meantime, too.
Oh, yeah, man. I love it. Well, bless you. Thank you so much for coming on. You've been lovely.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Okay, listeners. Well, that was the rest of our time with Noshoes, or Scott. He's a lovely person. He smiles constantly. It's those people that you really don't want to make mad because it's bad when they're mad. He's lovely though, and I can't even imagine it. He just always has a continual smile. Really lovely, very energetic, very prolific, as you heard by the end there. If you would like to reach out with him and collaborate, I'm pretty sure that you can contact him or at least find him on IG at Therealnoshoes. DM him. I'm sure you can ask him about the podcast. Let him know where you found him, and he has a link tree there. That way you can find all other access to him. His YouTube channel is super prolific. It's really, really cool. So if you share a common interest with Scott, I pray that you connect and reach out. There's a common thing. I know that I've heard it a lot in many different examples and I guess vocations or nerddom, but it's Baltimore, man. Like this area, we know everybody. Like you run into people all the time. I'm sure he's already finding that in his pursuits in higher learning, but reach out. You never know what might happen, and I love to watch people grow and get excited and do fun things. To do that, and definitely while you're giving him some love, give Black Lotus some love. I believe they just launched their new website, which is pretty exciting. Apparently, it's easier to navigate and get in touch with the artists that you hope to work with. As he said, Dan, his name's Little Dan. He's been cited on this most recent excerpt. I posted a tattoo that he did for Scott. But he's over there at Black Lotus, and just check everybody out. You will not regret that. There's nothing but talent over at Black Lotus. I have enjoyed almost every time that I've experienced that studio and the people there. So please go and check it all out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to have more interviews coming up. As I said, God always likes to show me when I'm wrong, and I've had a lot to share with you guys as far as my spiritual journey. There's a lot going on in the background, but I think that this is beautiful that there's more interviews coming up simply because I think it's God telling me I need to be quiet for a minute and just focus on what I need to get done with these exciting new happenings. I hope I can share them when they're a little bit more in progress, but there's some cool stuff happening, listeners, in the background, and I can't wait to share it with you. But in the meantime, there will be more people like Scott or Noshoes for you to know. Next week, I'm going to be airing my time with Ken Madden. He's back. We've had him on the show before, but he's a wonderful, wonderful human being. And with this particular one, we're going to be sharing his his experience with God. So it's going to be really fun. I love all of you. I love doing these and staying in practice. I don't know where it'll lead, but I'm really happy that I get to meet so many fantastic people like Scott. Hopefully more of you as years go by. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So God bless you all. Thank you so, so much. I love you. And if God wills it, I'll catch you next week.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is the_apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.